Alright guys, welcome to another video from XF Motorsports. In this one, we're back to the long-awaited E55 manual swap. If you haven't watched the previous videos, this was an E55 that we put a CD09 transmission into, and we were basically converting it to a manual. But for the longest time, we couldn't get all the electronics working on the car. We sent the ECU out to someone trying to program it to manual. That didn't work out. We tried a few other things, they also didn't work out. And then finally we had to go with making a controller to, well, control the supercharger and stuff. But Matt is the person who mainly worked on the electronics, so he's going to explain how we...
So for the electronics of the E55, basically we had our own embedded system that we designed with two motor controllers, one for the throttle body and one for the clutch of the supercharger. And between both of those and being able to program the embedded system, we used the cam position sensor to get the RPMs from the engine. We can then map that to how we want the supercharger to behave, how much boost to apply. And from there, it was just a matter of writing up some code and tuning the engine so it doesn't overboost, kind of how it was without the controller.
So apart from the electronics, we also did some other cool things on the car. We put a gated shifter in it and finished up all the interior, which we're also going to show you later in the video. We're filming this intro a little later. We have already done all the work on it. So yeah, I guess let's start off by showing you guys how we went along and got all this stuff working. And at the end of this video, I'll also mention the full kit. If you want to manual swap this car with the electronics and all the adapters and everything, it's already available. So yeah, let's get into it. So starting off by showing you guys everything that we've done on the car since the previous video. So the first thing was, of course, figuring out the electronics, getting the supercharger and everything else on the engine and the car running so that all the features and everything works with a manual transmission on it, which we have been able to do and which we'll talk about and show you how we did all that later in the video. And also showing you guys what we've done on the interior, finishing all that up so that it actually looks proper now. So we've added this really cool gated shifter on it, and it actually says serial number 001, which the person actually wanted me to add to make sure that everyone knows that this is the first E55 with the CD09 manual transmission. And later on I'll actually show you how this gated shifter and everything works. And this gear shifter, by the way, gear shifter knob is temporary right now. The person has actually made a custom knob for it which actually matches the wood trim, and it actually has a proper AMG logo on it, so that's going to look really cool once he adds that. But we were just using this 350Z shifter for now to test everything. And yeah, let's actually start off by showing you guys everything we went through on the electronics, which took a while actually to figure out. And after that, at the end of this video, I'm going to mention the whole kit and the whole electronic controller that you're going to be able to buy pretty soon from our website, so that literally anyone can take the E55 and convert it into manual. So for figuring out the electronics, we first started off by working with a few other people who thought they could get the electronics working, but well, after wasting quite a lot of time and trying a few different methods, programming the ECU to manual or using the CAN bus, those methods really didn't work out with this one. I believe they only work on V6 models, so eventually we had to go to making our own circuit and then getting everything working that way. The first few attempts of making this circuit didn't really work too well. The car was running really rough, really glitchy, but after making a few different circuits, we finally got to a point where things actually started working. Okay, so after a million attempts of trying to get the circuit working, this is a circuit that is going to be controlling the supercharger and everything on the engine that is, well, not being controlled properly right now. We have managed to make a circuit that will work and function properly. This is just a trial circuit right now. We're making it using an Arduino, but the actual circuit is going to be an embedded system, which Matt is designing. But of course, the reason we kept it simple for now is because the previous circuits we were making, we had trouble with them, and that's why this was a quick, easy way to get everything working. Basically to test the whole program out, and once it works properly, then we're going to be onto the embedded system and making a proper controller for controlling all this. So basically right now we were playing around with the PID values. Right now we have it programmed with a potentiometer, so when Matt turns the potentiometer, it changes the throttle position, and now you can see it's working pretty smooth. Before this it was jittering all over the place, so it's taken a while to get that program right. But now next what we need to do is we need to put all this in the car. We need to program all the other things of it to work in the car, and then we're going to be testing it out, seeing what it takes to get the car running well, and then yeah, after that it's going to be on to the rest. So after that, Matt started work on finishing up his circuit and wiring it in the car, but I had to get started on the gated shifter. So for making this shifter gated, of course we have to first
get rid of this thick rubber thing over here, we need to take the shifter out. We need to weld a stainless steel rod instead of this one, and even the stainless steel rod, we'll have to cut it, thin it out so that it can actually slide inside the gates, because there's not an awful lot of movement on this transmission from side to side. So that's why for it to work with a gated shifter, we really need a really thin rod going down. So next, let's actually start off by removing this shifter one more time, cutting it and welding this stainless steel rod in place of this one, then machining the rod so that it's actually thinner from the gated shifter part, and then after that starting to modify this panel, making the actual gated shifter part that needs to go over here, and then testing it out and seeing if it actually even works. So after some fabrication, here's what the shifter looks like. Now it's a proper stainless steel, nice rod welded to it, and these welds aren't going to be visible because they're going to go underneath the plate that is going to go on the shifter. So next, what we have to get to now is designing the thing that this whole thing is going to move in, so that we can change it into a gated shifter. So next it was onto the CNC machine for making the gates that the shifter was going to move in. Here's a look at all the pieces after they are machined, and after a little bit of hand finishing, they're looking pretty good. Now the next step is actually putting these pieces on the shifter, which is a bit of a painful part. And by the way, this was not my idea. My idea was to only cut this part because the shifter actually does line up above this part, and there wasn't really any need to modify the wooden panel. But since no one really liked my idea, Sebastian told me to cut the whole panel. The owner told me to cut the panel a little wider so we can fit this entire shape in there, so that it's it looks kind of like this. So that's what we are gonna do. We're gonna basically put this wooden part in the CNC machine now. We're gonna cut it so that it's the same shape as the outline of this part. I might even have to make this panel again depending on how it actually works out, so if the gears don't actually line up the way I have made it right now. But let's actually first try it out. Let's cut this panel first, then put everything in the car, and then see how it works. Before I could test out the gated shifter, it was time to finish up on the electronics because Matt had done all the wiring, and it was time to take the car for a bit of a test drive and basically program these electronics so they could actually work properly with the car. Okay, so after a whole bunch more wiring, well, not that much more wiring, we've only had to tap into these wires, and we've connected our circuit. It's just temporary for now. We've just put everything over here so that we can test it out, change the program, see how the car runs. Right now the covers are off the engine, that's why it looks a little bit different, and we also have to change the supercharger bearing on it because that's the other thing that broke. It's a common issue on these E55s, and it definitely also broke on this one. But yeah, it's just a matter of replacing the bearing, and that should be fixed. The engine covers are off right now, and the coolest thing about this engine bay is that if you look back there, you actually see a CD09 transmission, well, just a little bit of it over there, which that's a sight that you definitely don't get to see on any other E55. But yeah, let's actually start it up, run the car, see how much programming we have to do to get it all running, and after that it's going to be time to clean up all this wiring, make a proper case for the electronics, and most likely we're going to mount it inside the car somewhere. It's kind of on and off.
Yeah.
So driving the car this time, it was a lot better than last time, but there was still a little bit of an issue going on. The boost would vary up and down, and you could kind of feel the power changing, so the car was behaving a little funny. So after this point, Matt went all out. He made a proper test bench and simulated all the conditions the circuit would be under when it was in the engine, and Then went from there and figured out the code fully and worked out on all the issues that the circuit was having. But while Matt was doing that, I had to get to replacing the supercharger bearing on the car. So another thing that broke on the car, which is a pretty common E55 issue while we were testing it, is that the supercharger bearing broke completely. So we're going to replace this, of course, before we send the car back. Replacing this is fortunately not too difficult of a job. You just put a 17mm spanner over here to take tension off the supercharger belt, and then the belt, you can just slip it right off. You can put a lock in there if you want to be extra safe, but since I don't want to be extra safe, I can just pull the belt off like this. Supercharger belt comes off. I've already loosened the tension on this bolt. It's a little difficult to initially get loose, but once you get it loose, you can actually spin it pretty easily. So after a while, Matthew has returned with the proper program that is now supposed to work, fix our glitches that we were having last time. And I guess, he can explain what he's done.
So the main differences in this, as you saw in the testing video on the desk, was we're limiting it to only reading the engine RPM at about 20 hertz. Before, we were running into memory issues where we were reading it too quickly, running out of dynamic RAM, and that would cause the device to crash. The other thing too is we weren't properly utilizing a few of the timers, as well as a watchdog timer. So by implementing all of that, we've been able to prevent it from crashing on the desk anymore, and hopefully as soon as we take it for a spin, we'll see that it won't crash anymore like it did the last time.
Yeah, and now it's time to, take it for the test drive on this code. So let's hope that this actually works and it fixes all our problems. Okay, so yeah, this time Matt has worked his magic. The car is feeling amazing. It feels like a proper E55. It has that insane amount of torque low down. I don't want to do too much stupid stuff on the person's tire, but the power is insane now. Look at that. It just flies. Let's do a little bit of a report over here. Show you guys the power. Way too fast. Yeah. Oh my god. We gotta take this on the highway now. This is quick. This feels a lot quicker than a normal E55. The car just flies. It goes through the gears so quickly. Yeah, it was just a matter of I guess fixing the program. Now all the glitchiness in the boost, everything is gone. Everything is just smooth. It's amazing how big of a difference this is. Driving the car last time to this time and seeing how everything is working right now.
So the cool thing with the program is even while we're driving, we're able to see everything about the engine, the feedback from the different valves, everything with our PID controllers. So as we're driving, that helped us tune it quite a bit.
Yep.
And has kind of led to the smoothness in the engine.
All the features, of course, also work. I'm driving with cruise control right now. The cool thing is you can actually shift gears with cruise control on, and the car just does the right thing, and everything works on it. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's take this on the highway, go for a bit of a longer drive, make sure everything is perfect, and then that's pretty much going to be it for the program. Once everything with the electronics was looking pretty good, I of course had to get back to work on finishing up the gated shifter. And here's a look at the panel after it's all put together, and it's actually looking really cool. It's actually a really good fit with the wood and everything. It was actually a perfect fit. I had to press it in and it kind of gets stuck there. It doesn't even move after that. So let's actually put it together, see how everything lines up, and then go from there and try to get everything working. So after putting everything back in place, there's a little bit of bad news, but something that I kind of expected that might happen. When we put this plate in place, the way we have actually made these gates is actually quite a bit far off from how the shifter actually moves. So basically what I need to do now is I need to measure the position of every single gear. Then I need to go back to the software, make a new plate so that it follows the actual way this shifter is traveling, now that I have a better idea how it's actually moving in reference to this plate, and then actually design this plate accordingly, and then hopefully everything is going to work out. Okay, so now finally after a whole bunch of work, everything actually lines up and it actually works. Look at this, all the gears actually engage without like anything hitting, or let me press the clutch because some gears are not going to go in. So yeah, everything now finally works on the gated shifter, which is pretty cool to see. And also I will add a cover over here underneath so that you can't see anything underneath, so it doesn't look crappy. And then after that, yeah, I want to take this out for a test drive, see how the gears and everything actually shift. For now I'm just going to be using this temporary crappy 350Z shifter, but later on the customer actually has his own shifter. He got a custom one made for the thing, which has an AMG logo. It's a pretty cool one actually, and it matches this wood trim, so that's going to be a pretty cool thing once everything is done. But yeah, for now let's take everything off one more time, finish everything up, and also at the same time finish all the wiring so that we can finally put all this interior back together for the final time. So after the last time we were driving the car, we've put everything together. We've done a bunch more programming on it, trying to refine things a lot more so that the occasional popper cut or the glitches we were getting are now all gone. We've been test driving it quite a lot. So let's take you on a final test drive showing you guys everything and how it's working now. And yeah, you just stick the key in like you would on a normal car. The cool thing is when you turn it on, it does a sweep from drive to park, telling you that everything is working normally. Then of course you start the car. Let me put my seatbelt on before I head out, and yeah, the car goes back to D. When I will put it in reverse, you have to push this one down and go in reverse. The shifter moves to reverse, the tail lights turn on, and yeah, everything works like it should. The SRS on this car was already on when I got it. I checked the codes for it. I think it's probably the SRS module because it's not even communicating with the CAN bus, and there's a whole lot of codes stored for it. So I'm not going to deal with that because that's not something that is related to the manual swap. But other than that, everything is working pretty well. I put it in first gear, the car moves to drive, and then I can drive off, and everything else then functions like it should. The car just drives off. The gated shifter is a little noisy in first gear. I'm not sure if you can hear that on video, but it's a little bit noisy, and first gear is also like takes a little bit of getting used to. It's a really torquey car, and in first gear the throttle is pretty twitchy. You have to be careful on the accelerator. Second gear gets perfectly normal, then it becomes like a perfectly normal driving car. And let me just turn ESP off, because when ESP is on, it like cuts power quite a lot. Like you definitely can't floor it in first gear, and sometimes it even cuts power in second gear. But yeah, this car is so much fun to drive. Like you cannot stop driving it once you start driving. It's really quick, but it's a pretty comfortable, really refined car at the same time. Like once you put it in fourth gear, you're just cruising along, you can turn cruise control on and everything just works like it's supposed to. It's just a normal E55 with a manual transmission. So that's the coolest part. It's like changed the car completely. You can downshift gears, go into third gear, go into second gear, go into popper again. It's really fun. It's an extremely fun car to drive. So let's just take it on the highway quickly, do a longer drive, make sure that all the features, cruise control and stuff works properly on the highway. We don't get any glitches or anything, and that's going to be it for the car then.
I also wanted to show how easy it is rolling this car uphill. So we're on a pretty steep uphill now. I let go of the brakes. You can see the car rolling back really quickly. I just put it in first on the brakes and on the clutch. I just let go of the clutch. I'm not even pressing the accelerator. Look at that. This is with zero accelerator. The car just drives up perfectly normal. You don't even need to press the accelerator to launch it. And then, yeah, it's just, the engine is so torquey, plus the idle control is so aggressive that it just never stalls. So going on the highway finally with the E55, I'm just in 5th gear right now. The gear ratios actually work pretty nicely. So in 6th gear, I'm going at 70 miles an hour. The car is at 2,000 RPM, so you can turn cruise control on at this speed and it just nicely cruises around just like a normal E55. Even in 6th gear, it doesn't struggle at all, like accelerating or decelerating. It pretty easily does that. Also going uphill and downhill, but of course the fun part is shifting down the gears. And let me turn cruise control off first, actually. And then this 4th gear, 3rd gear. That's really fun. So Matt's time to drive the E55 manual once everything is done.
It's crazy.
It's really torquey. What do you think about the car now that it's all done?
It's nice. It's finished really, really nicely. Like, I like that you can just start it and go. No more worrying about all the little shift knobs.
Yeah. Feels like a proper car now.
After that, I let some other E55 owners drive the car to get their feedback on it.
Everything is smooth. Like,
Yeah.
there's no. I've had like cars that were supposed to be standard that are less smooth than this.
It's just so weird to sit in a Mercedes and get switch gears.
Yeah. Way better than BMW though, no? Holy crap. It is quick. So the car's all done, but of course there was one last thing we had to do on it before sending it off. Putting it on some crappy tires so we don't burn the good tires, and then doing a few burnouts. So let's see how it goes. So here's a final look underneath the E55 after all that driving, and yeah, sure enough, everything is holding up. I don't really, I think, expect to have any problems with this setup because, of course, it's already tried and tested in that car, of course, and that one, of course, goes through a lot more abuse than a street car ever would. So yeah, everything is holding up. The only thing that did crack was this catalytic converter. It is a common issue on E55s that they do crack because of heat and stuff. We had to weld it back together, but I'm not sure if this was because of heat because we pushed it too much, or whether it was because we didn't have the exhaust support from here, because there's originally like a support that goes here that bolts to the transmission, but since we didn't have the thing over there, later on we added this metal thing that is now supporting the exhaust from here. So it could have been because that support was missing initially, that this thing cracked, but I'm not sure. Yeah, other than that, this is pretty much everything underneath the car, looking pretty clean. Now it's just time to put the covers back on, lower the car, and just finish it up. So that's going to be everything for the E55. This is what we finally ended up doing with the circuit for now. We ended up packaging in a circuit box and putting it over here. We were initially thinking of running the wires into the car and putting it somewhere underneath the dash so no one actually sees it, but
we were running a little short on time. We had to do this in a bit of a rush, so that's why we left it over here for now. But soon enough, we are going to be making the proper circuit. It's going to be a different case. It's going to be a really flat, like kind of like the ECU case, which the circuit is going to go in. And hopefully soon enough, even by the time this video is uploaded, you might see that listed on the website. And yeah, after that, pretty much anyone will be able to take that circuit and swap their E55s to a manual, and everything is going to work on them then. Also, to answer some questions and showing you guys well, a few things about this transmission adapter kit, because quite a few people were asking what's the cost of the adapter kit, what's actually required to convert this E55 to a manual like we've done on this car. So I've actually put a full list together of all the parts that we pretty much used in this car, and if you want to swap the E55 to a manual, all the parts that you will need. So I've made two lists, one with used parts, one with new parts, and basically telling you guys the final cost. With all new parts, you're going to be looking at about $6,000 US to convert this car into a manual. With used parts, it's going to be around slightly under $4,000. So of course, used parts are going to be quite a lot cheaper, but so that's completely up to you which parts you want to go with. But yeah, quickly walking through the parts, you obviously need a CD09 transmission. This one has a brand new transmission. It's called CD00A from Z1 Motorsports. That's the best version of the CD09 transmissions. The good thing about buying a new transmission is that it does come with a warranty. I believe the warranty is a year, so if you break the transmission within a year, you can actually get a free replacement for it. But I think it will definitely not break, because it's the CD00A is a really strong variant of the CD09 transmission. People run it all the way to like 1,000 horsepower in their track cars, and nothing usually breaks on those transmissions. After that, you will need, of course, the transmission flywheel adapter kit from XF Motorsports, which is us. That's this kit. It comes with two adapters, all the bolts and everything that you will need with it. And the cool thing about this adapter kit is that once you have this, you can pretty much bolt any clutch and flywheel that comes for the 350Z that will actually work in the 55 then. And for this one, it was a 500 foot-pound torque clutch and flywheel kit that we put in this one. That's available from Z1 Motorsports as well for $648 right now. And well, yeah, the cool thing is that if you're modifying your E55s and you want to go much higher on the power, you can even put a twin disc clutch with this adapter kit, and you can get like 1,000 horsepower or something out of this, and this transmission and everything will actually handle it. It's actually much more powerful, much reliable than the automatic transmission that, well, we replaced. That's one benefit, and that's definitely a benefit that I can say actually works, because in my own car I was having, well, on my previous E55 I was having a lot of troubles with the automatic transmission. Once I twin turbocharged it, it would start slipping gears and give all types of trouble, and since I moved to manual, of course, all those issues are gone completely. The transmission handles the power no problem. After that, you will need a clutch slave to go along with the transmission. That's also available from Z1 Motorsports. 350Z gear shifter, which is also available from Z1 Motorsports. You will need a drive shaft, only the front part of the drive shaft. You can either get that from a 350Z like we had, and take the carbon fiber part off and weld it to the E55 drive shaft, or you can get a drive shaft from an Infiniti G35, which is already a steel one. You can probably find that for cheaper, and then you can cut that and also weld that to this one, which also works. You'll need a clutch master cylinder kit, either from the 350Z or something that is of a fairly similar size that will then work. You'll need a gear shifter mount from XF. This is the mount on which the 350Z shifter actually mounts on, because the actual transmission shifter where that goes on the CD09 transmission will not line up properly with the E55. So our gear shift mount, you can actually mount it anywhere and then just bolt it down to the transmission tunnel. And yeah, that allows you to put the gear shifter anywhere you want. After that, you will need a clutch pedal. Either you can go with our clutch pedal like we're using on this car, or you can go with a Mercedes clutch pedal. This is something that I didn't know earlier. I thought the SBC models you couldn't swap pedals between the normal ABS models and the SBC models, but it turns out the pedals are the same. You can take the manual transmission pedals and put them in this one too. The only thing is you will need to probably retrofit a 350Z clutch slave onto those ones if you want to use that. Or you can buy the clutch pedal that we've already made for this car, which is a reverse mounted pedal. It goes, the cylinder goes underneath the floor mats. That one is of course fully adjustable, so you won't need to do any customization there. But after that, the transmission mount adapter, we made a transmission mount adapter for this car to use the same transmission mount that comes on the automatic transmission to use it with this one, but you can really do any type of custom fabrication there to make that work. And of course, lastly, you will need the supercharger circuit that we made for this one, and that's pretty much it. That's the full list of parts that you will need. So yeah, there's really only two places you need to go looking for all those parts. One is our website, xfmotorsports.com, and the second website is z1motorsports.com. Yeah, and then you can find all these parts. Of course, if you want to go with used parts, you will have to do some digging around looking for all these used parts, but at least for the new parts, the list will be fairly simple and you can find all these parts. I will link both these websites down in the description below. So yeah, that's going to be everything for the car. It's going to be heading back to the States really soon, to a person who's really looking forward to getting the car back. And yeah, I know a few people in the comment section wanted me to pull a prank on the dealers, taking this car to the Mercedes dealership, asking for an automatic transmission fluid change or something. But the funny thing about this car is the owner of this car is actually the dealer, so he's going to be getting the car back really soon. And I'm actually trying to convince him to pull a prank on his colleagues, take it into the Mercedes dealership, like and maybe film their reaction. So let's see, let's hope he gives us something cool, and let's see what the Mercedes dealers actually think about this one. So yeah, that's going to be everything for this one. Some other cool projects that are going to be, well, we're going to be starting work on really soon. This is a Mercedes V12 bi-turbo, and this is actually going into a really clean Mercedes 500 SEC. This is a project that well, we have already started work on. We just need to start putting this engine back in the car, but we're actually, this is a really insane project. We're putting bigger turbos on this engine. We're trying to tune it to like 800 or 900 horsepower and then putting it in an old classic car that is going to look completely stock from the outside, but it's going to be insanely powerful on the inside, kind of like this car. This also looks like a sleeper on the outside, but it's a really fun car to drive now, at least. So yeah, that one is going to be coming really soon. Also, some update on this project, the R107 that we were putting a C63 engine is. We were stuck on the steering for the longest part, but we just managed to figure out a solution. We moved the oil pans to a CL63 oil pan, so we pretty much changed the engine from a C63 engine to a CL63 engine, and now finally things will work a lot better for the steering system, and we hopefully should be able to make some progress on this car really soon. So yeah, quite a bit of stuff coming up for you guys soon enough. Stay tuned. This is going to be everything for now. See you in the next one.